And with that burst of 8-bit electronic music, you know it's time for another episode of GI Joburg. This time it's episode 261, Mile High Megatron, a title that will make all too much sense in just a moment. My name is Steve. I'm joined by my boys. Joined by my boys. It was going so well up until then. Paul, sound off, dude.
Polartron. It's Polartron. I don't transform into a HiSS Tank. And who else is here today?
It is Rob Wave. Eject content. Hello.
And in the first piece of the puzzle, it's Mile High Cujo, rep in Colorado.
Colorado. Midwest. Fantastic.
Outstanding. Cujo has some convention coverage to share with us. Intel that runs even deeper than SDCC, which, quite frankly, I think we're a little bit saturated with the news from. Am I right, boys?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I mean, is there any comic book news coming out of SDCC anymore?
Well, Larry Hama got a Lifetime Achievement Eisner.
Indeed, he did. I did mention it last time.
Yeah, man.
It's about the only news I remember coming out of there.
And they cancelled the Batgirl movie.
Oh, yes.
That's
Damn, man. And the suit looked really nice, but
Yeah.
the tide is turning, gents. I
This
guess.
is a nice suit.
It looks
So
like,
how are you
it
fellas
looks-
doing?
Surviving. We've started to get load shedding again, but thankfully tonight we are load shedding less, so we have power to talk. The freedom.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's nothing short of a miracle that we have a full house today. Paul
It's
and
been a
Rob
while.
and Colorado.
Yeah, and it's a
And
load
of course,
shedding
we've
time.
got the Bob Squad. I mean, the Bob Squad, the Berg
Bob
Force,
Squad.
and the Bob Squad
And
in
the Bob-
attendance here. I see Hans, I see Andrew, I see Darren, I see Bob, I see Gaz. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to join the Berg Force, hit up patreon.com/GI Joburg. Simple.
Yeah, join the Bob Force. Bob and his friends.
I'm sure Bob will enjoy having them on his squad.
Hell yeah.
Anyways, Cuj, you're the new man in the mix. It's good to have you back. What's up, dude?
True, let me do some politicking. It's always good to see the Berg Force. MC, I see you, brother. It has been quite a wild ride. As you know, I've been off and on, but we have created some quality content, as you know. Some of that being my interviews from the fan expo here in Denver at the Mile High File Cards. If you've not caught that, it's a deep cut. It's worth a listen. There's some Joe talent on there. There's a couple random folks that know how to handle their business. So definitely worth a listen. I will highlight a couple names from there. I had the pleasure of chatting with Brian Cummings, the voice of Dr. Mindbender. I know a personal favorite of Deadly Pencils.
Yeah.
He was actually, I've seen him at conventions, but never made the time. It was actually long overdue. He was a totally cool cat. If I'm catching you right now, Brian, thank you so much for sharing that insight. But definitely worth a listen. Let's see, who else? Renee Witterstetter. This one's an interesting one, and I will throw a question to you gentlemen. She is I think an editor or an artistic agent for Michael Golden, whom we all know. They've been on my radar for quite some time. They're professional partners. So I mean, like they're scheduled for conventions, and I always miss them. Either they don't show or something else happens. But I did catch them this time, and there's Sweeney. What's up, brother? And it's interesting to me because the old creatives don't talk much. They let their work do the talking. So that's where my question comes from. Like, Hama doesn't necessarily interview. Golden barely talks to anybody. Is that an effective strategy these days for an artist? I mean, how do you guys feel? Should it be on the page? Your thoughts, I guess, starting with Paul, since you have to promote yourself. Is it better to stay silent? What's your thoughts?
Jeez, dude. like, yeah, it's a funny one because, like, for me with like professional work, for example, I never like put my name on anything, you know? Like, I never sign it. You don't see my signature on any kind of splash graphics or anything that I do. Nothing like that. So, but my name is like in the on the file name because they have to know that where it comes from. So that's
They gotta
kind of
know who to pay.
yeah, that or who to crap out, you know. So one of the two. But yeah, man. I think sometimes your work has to kind of speak for itself in a lot of ways, if that makes sense. You know, like you kind of have to, and I mean, I've seen this like with my buddy Warren, for example. He's very successful in that regard, in that people see his covers, his DC covers that he's doing, those exclusive ones, and they might see his signature but not know who it is. But when they start like looking up, they find out it's him, and then it goes like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I just feel like as an artist, you have to be very subtle with how you promote yourself because
It's
it
an
can just
interesting one.
yeah, it is a tricky one because there's also like a certain level of humility as well that comes with being an artist as well. You know, it's like well, and when I say artist, I mean like you know,
Creator.
professional illustrator or whatever,
Our professional illustrator.
professional drawer. Yeah.
Well, I think here's one tip for anybody that might say like, "Oh, if Cujo can do this, then I can do this." And you're right. If you want to talk to people in the industry and stuff like this, I think the move nowadays is maybe to email their agent before a convention. See if you can set aside some time, because it does get a little hectic. And Golden is somebody that I would love to chat with because of that said integrity, artistic integrity, the storytelling of his line work, etc. Because it's definitely influenced me. Alas, I did not get to chat with him, but I did get to chat with his agent Renee, who has lived a life. And she was great. By the end of that chat, we were both out of breath. So I mean, like, no, she definitely opened up. And cheers to you, Renee. Thank you very much.
She was definitely a fantastic person to interview. I think she had a lot of positive stuff to say, and it kind of like bookends the entire like story of the Fan Expo Denver. I felt
yeah.
It was very much an exploration of storytelling and how do people get out their stuff as being a creative and old versus new. That's kind of like what I got from this the entire experience of listening to the entire episode. But yeah, Renee was fantastic. I believe she taught storytelling. She's been all over the world. And it's nice that she kind of emphasizes that everything contributes to a story when you create something. So especially in comic books, it's not just the writing, it's the way that the colors are used. Yes, the art, it's the writing, it's the color, the inking, how everything comes together. And obviously then the editing as well. How does the editor see all of this and go, maybe try this a little bit better, maybe try that a little bit less. And the importance of talking up the good. I think that was a big point that she had. Be encouraging of positivity and she was fantastic.
That segues nicely into the last person I'll bring up, which was the editor, Heather Antos. Much respect to her. Heather, if you're catching this, it was a pleasure. She's somebody, because of the culture war, she blocked me on Twitter. Now, she didn't know, I don't believe she knew it was me interviewing her, but it was not a gotcha interview. I have a lot of respect for her. And I hope that this next era of fandom and pop culture is kind of like that second age of pop culture Aquarius, where the smart people come together and start doing what we do. So,
well, she certainly had good stuff to say. I mean, she kind of, I think you kind of asked like, how do you feel about fandoms and like you didn't straight out go like toxic fandoms and that sort of thing, but she did bring out the fact that it's the people's passion and their love for characters that kind of like keeps these characters alive and current forever and ever, essentially. And how through telling stories, you can often find hope and community with a bunch of other people that also really enjoy the stuff that you enjoy a lot. Like we've done with GI Joe.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think with her and also Renee, they kind of brought up the idea of to just go out and do it. Don't say I can't do it. Say how am I gonna do it?
Yeah,
Tenacity,
that's
make
great
it happen.
advice.
I think that's great advice for anybody being creative, anyone
With
creating
anything, yeah.
crazy stuff. I mean, like even with GI Joe, 40 years later, it's still around.
No, exactly.
They're making it happen as best, I suppose, as best they can.
And sorry, Rob, like something I wanted to jump in just because you touched on a nice point, and it's funny how these things work out. I was reading an article today about a tweet that Tite Kubo, that's the author of Bleach, he made this tweet in response to a tweet that went quite viral with regards to Bleach. What happened is there's two female characters that are possible love interests in the story, and a lot of fans prefer the one over the other. And Tito, Kubo-san, he actually turned around and in his tweet he just said, "Listen, I like both of those characters, and I have a direction for these characters, and I don't believe it is the role of the reader to dictate the actions of the writer." And he's like, if you really feel like, you want to take it in a different direction, he's like, start your own manga, start your own book. Come knock me off my podium. Like, and I thought, and it sounded like, if you think of, and this is obviously translated, but if you think about it, that's like quite a bold statement to make. But I find he's the second person now that's made a statement like that out of Japan with regards to his own creation. And that is because there is a lot of fan interference, I believe, in a lot of modern day like pop culture stuff, like TV shows, comic books, etc. And it's really like it's becoming a problem. And I like that, and I know why that happens.
It really becomes a problem, though, Paul, when the overlords standing above the creatives say you need to bend to the will of the people.
Exactly.
So that sentiment might be held by a lot of creatives. I mean, certainly if I was creating something that was mainstream and there was a sort of fan sentiment that, I didn't like that, like that would motivate me to go even further in, like lean into the stuff that they don't like, because you don't tell me what to do. But unfortunately, the money does.
No,
so
granted.
That's the interference that I'm more wary of.
Well, that's the beauty of Japan.
Fans can rant and rave and do as we please, but if the corporate overlords say, no, people want this, you need to do this, that sucks. I'm looking at you, Disney.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about like Japan and how they sort of creative laws protect their creators, the creators of the manga. Because
for how long though? Honestly, I'm just skeptical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I don't want to get into this like too hectic, but for example, the guy who created Dragon Ball, he decided to stop Dragon Ball at Dragon Ball Z. And
Toriyama.
Yeah, Akira Toriyama was told to stop. Said he's going to stop. This is it. He wants to retire Dragon Ball Z. And Studio Bird was like, "No, you can't do this." And he's like, "No, I really can. I own this." Like, And then what happened is Dragon Ball Z hit America, and it was Dragon Ball had hit the States, and obviously the guys, I think it was, what is it called? I want to keep wanting to say Tokyo Pop, but it's not Tokyo Pop. It's Toonami. Had picked it up, Cartoon Network, and they had picked it up and they were airing it. And the American listeners, sorry if it's not Toonami, my bad. But anyway, that company had picked it up and they were like, "Well, listen, this thing is doing so well. We need more content." And then they try to get a new Dragon Ball done. And basically, Akira Toriyama was like, "Yeah, okay, you can do it. You can do it with these characters and go for it. But I'm gonna have no involvement." And Dragon Ball GT is well known for being unbelievably crap amongst its fan base.
And then you have to come back and be like, "Sorry, you guys have ruined this. This is the actual story. Dragon Ball Super."
And now he's fixed it with Super. But like, in Japan, a lot of the creators have got rights to their own stuff. I mean, even the guys. But let's not go into too deeply.
Well, it's quite an opposite. Quite the opposite thing, or at least it feels opposite to me when you compare it to another guest that Cujo interviewed, Aaron Reynolds, who's creating Effin' Birds, where
he's cool.
He sounded like such a freaking cool guy. Where it sounds like he creates his own stuff, but he kind of like it builds it over time through his social networking. and
Yeah.
how often to kind of promote his own stuff, he actually creates content based off analytics. He's very deep into his Twitter analysis and
He
creating
plays the
content.
game.
He plays the game. That's how he kept getting bigger audiences, bigger people, and how he kind of like sometimes even tailored his own content to draw in people that he knew really liked his stuff, like people bigger than him. So at
Or
times,
like Will Wheaton. Yeah.
like Will Wheaton.
Yeah.
Like I think that was a big thing, wasn't it, Cujo?
Word. Yeah, no, he was one of those people where you're walking down the aisle and you just know that cat's cool. Like people gravitate towards him. So day one, I was like, who is this? And then I looked at his tweets and I was like, dude's got a 300K following. How's that happen? It was just it was interesting. But no, he was totally generous, totally genuine. Good times. Cheers, man.
Yeah, he seemed like a really cool guy, but he kind of like, I'm not saying he's creating his content he just changes content based on the people that are looking at it, but he's certainly using some parts of his content to kind of tease out a bigger following for himself.
I'm
not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's an interesting approach.
There's not too many people in their 40s that talk social analytics, but people in their 30s, definitely people in their 20s are more aware. And I mean, I know we've been shutting Steven out for a minute. But I think that's I think like when I'm looking at the GI Joe community, and that's a huge thing right now. I think one thing that we've done is we've been ahead of the curve on a lot of things. So I mean, like if you're talking about crowdfunding and community and how to be self-sustainable as a community, I think the evidence is there. Of course, I'll break off a bunch of names, but no, I do think one name that we should highlight right now is to congratulate Word Burglar for being the #1 rapper with his #1 rapper on Bandcamp for his release of Bergonomics.
No ways. That's fantastic.
Yeah, man. Congratulations. Very cool.
A rapper who had you on stage, Rob. Lest you forget.
Absolutely. He made me an incredible scoop.
An international superstar overnight.
I was impressed.
Dude,
I don't know why it isn't on one of his albums, but anyway.
He may be.
You just got to give him a call. Bergie, just give Rob a call. You know he's gonna be there. You know he's down to clown. He's cool. Anyway, carrying on.
Nah, guys, that rap is free and raw and freestyle on the Road to JoeCon Pod 2. Check it out. Link in the description below. some traffic on that old video. Thanks.
Good promotion, Stephen. So,
There you go.
Cujo, how did the experience at FanCon Denver compare to your experiences at like WonderCon and Long Beach Comic Con? Like, how was it? Was it bigger? I mean, how was the mood?
That's a fantastic question, brother. Actually, you know what? People in landlocked states, i.e. Colorado, appear to be more nerdy. They talk a lot more pop culture here in the casual conversations. So
That's good to know.
It is. It's interesting.
Yeah.
People are still talking superheroes.
Well, they're your type of people, Paul. They don't ever get to the beach.
Oh yeah, the inside children, my favorite types.
Exactly.
But,
They're tanned by the glow of the fluorescent light hanging above their computer station
Hey, yeah, like
in their mom's basement.
Colorado.
I dig those people.
I'm kidding.
I mean, I think Cujo's highlighted a few of them in your recent travels.
For sure. Well, here's what I'll say about the city of Denver, the capital of Colorado. If you have not seen the Colorado State Seal, don't forget I am the occult specialist, and it does have the Eye of Providence on that seal. So the city of Denver is an important city. The people in it are actually really warm. It's facing, if you've heard Bad Pub nationally about Denver, maybe you've heard about the homeless problem and stuff. It's a city it's a state that was the first state to recreationally legalize cannabis. So they're facing a lot of issues that your inner cities will face here pretty soon. So hopefully.
The only thing that I know about Colorado were things that South Park taught me.
God bless those guys. No,
Yeah, have they put Cartman on the state seal yet?
that's not a bad move. That's not bad.
Hey,
They should.
Hey,
do it.
isn't
It's
there
good
a
evidence.
dinosaur there?
Denver the dinosaur?
The last dinosaur.
Oh, the last dinosaur.
It's the last dinosaur. Yeah.
They do have some of those here. And honestly, like if you make it into this region, hit me up. I will send you to some incredible hot springs, etc. So it's been a grand adventure. The fan con had a lot of cool people in it. I did look for like random GI Joe cosplay, etc. Not a whole lot of rep. I did run into some Resident Evil folks, so that was nice.
Ah,
Yeah. Aside from that, no, this is a state that's full of stories, and I don't think at this juncture I could ask for more. But good question, man.
hell yeah. But it was just interesting also listening to Brian Cummings. I mean, he has a very different, at least he feels GI Joe, or at least this is me interpreting what he said. So if I'm wrong, you can correct me in the comments if you're listening, Brian. But he kind of felt like the original cartoon series, the Sunbow cartoon series, really hit it out of the park with the characterizations, and how they kind of like took their time to kind of find the mix and the passion between the characters and the chemistry. And he feels like even though the property, yes, it's 40 years old, a real American hero at least, he feels, or at least it felt like from his perspective, like it didn't recapture that as time went on. Like it's they've tried and they've tried and they've tried, but maybe this is him being, talking up his incredible roles. But like he feels like that original cartoon captured something that things that came after didn't as much, which I found interesting. Like compared to say like people working in the industry today, like Ariel, I think it was the artist Diaz, who did a fantastic Baroness cover, and Heather Antos being an editor working currently.
True. Well, to be honest, like going into that convention, there's always reaches. There's people that I didn't think I'd get access to, but prepared myself for. I didn't get access to any of those folks. Brian Cummings wasn't even on my radar till the day that I went, regrettably. But I saw him day one, and I was like, "Are you going to be here on Sunday?" He's like, "Oh yeah, come find me." So either he knew of me, or he just was very personable, and he was totally warm, totally affable. Talked about it, and I mean, I'm not going to dip into why does GI Joe hit back then and not now, but no, he was great. I had prepared to chat with Ming Wen, who was with Boba Fett in the last series, but the way that the other part of that question, what's difference between coastal cons and landlocked, is celebrities hit a lot harder here. The signature lines, the autograph lines, they're like the longest lines in the building. So I think that star power works in landlocked states a little bit more because people are more like dedicated fans, etc.
It's because there weren't any convention exclusive toys, Cooge. Like or QR codes they were handing out. No one had to queue up for that.
Yeah, get in this line to get the code to get in the other line. Yeah.
You didn't have to queue for your R codes. Sorry, dude.
Dude, the Jay and Silent Bob and his squad were there. I did put out a proposal to their podcast network about doing a guest host for their pod while they were here. Did not hear back. No worries. So there was people there. I'm happy I got to chat with the people I did. They did open up some doors in my mind, etc. So
that's fantastic. But also like Brian Cummings, like just thinking about him being part of such a, at least to him, definitely feels like it's a significant pop cultural event. You know, the Sunbow cartoon, and many other things that he is involved in, and it got me thinking. For you guys, what is like a significant pop cultural like event, hopefully GI Joe related, that you regret not having been part of, or rather wish you could have experienced yourself, like something that that you wish that you could have been there for, that still resonates today for you, and you're like, oh, I missed out on that. Is there anything like big that you guys ever wished you could have done or been a part of? It sounds like you died. or I've hit you guys with my quick fire topic.
Rob used stun.
I've stunned you.
It's a thinker. I might have an answer to that later. It's a thinker though.
Or even a personal, maybe GI Joe related event or memory you wish you could relive. Like if it's too big, like is it more like maybe? I think it's a very broad question. It's like something. Well, I'll give an example of something that I feel at least a significant pop cultural event that I feel that I wish I could have been part of. 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think. Oh, that's a nice one. Hans Chow wishes he went to Trinidad to see the Pope. Which version of the Pope was that?
Let me drop some. This is going to turn to a Colorado podcast. Here's a little trivia about Trinidad. It was one of the first capitals of Colorado, and it's considered the trans capital of the world because of a surgeon who has done a lot of trans surgeries. So there's a little nice little footnote. But no, it does have a nice chapel there, and the Pope has also been to Denver. They got a basilica here.
He's gone everywhere. That guy's crazy cool.
Gets around.
But I think like a cool pop cultural event, as an example, to hopefully get you guys thinking, that I wish I could have been involved in, would have to have been seeing 2001: A Space Odyssey on the big screen. Stanley Kubrick, to me, is like probably one of like the biggest prolific directors ever, and all of his films are absolutely fantastic to watch and experience. But like being able to see that for the first time in
Eyes
a
Wide
cinema
Shut?
and not knowing what it's about. Eyes Wide Shut as well is absolutely amazing. His
I'm
last
just
movie,
testing you. Just testing you.
unfortunately. So that's kind of like something that I feel that I wish I could have been involved in, like at the time, was sitting in that cinema and experiencing that journey for the first time. Does it spark anything?
Let me make you peanut butter and
big
jelly
time.
real quick. Hey, what's up, guys? Dude, I got to see 2001 with a live orchestra at the Hollywood Bowl once upon a time.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
It was
That
sick.
must have been amazing.
Sick.
Rob, I totally feel you on that. I used to rent, like many of us, I used to rent a movie on Friday night. I was allowed to take out 1 or 2 videotapes, depending on if it was a new release or not. And I remember, like, as a kid going, you know, wow, did this ever come to cinema in South Africa? And thinking about that the whole time. And, you know, movies became such an important thing to me that there's like a list of films, like a bucket list of movies that I'd love to watch in cinema. The top of that being Ghostbusters. I'd love to have been able to watch. I'd love to go back to 1984. Okay. Like 1984 had such an amazing year of movie releases. I mean, you got so much good stuff in that year. Just that. I mean, I think it was Indiana Jones is in there. Ghostbusters is in there. Just for starters, Back to the Future, I think came in at the end of the year. I mean, to watch those films on big screen just would blow me away. And I feel you 100% with like 2001: Space Odyssey. Like you said, to go into that and not know what the hell you're watching. I mean, as a kid, I remember looking through the Mnet guide and going, "Ooh, what's the yeah?" Because that's what I'd do on school holidays. I'd like open up the Mnet guide and go like, "What is the morning movie?" You know.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's sci-fi! I'm gonna watch this shit." Oh my god, dude, this is like 10-year-old Paul watching this, and I'm like, I do not know what is happening right now. Then I was like,
Well,
space, woo!
40-year-old Paul probably weren't either. I mean, I think that movie it's meant to be experienced. It's just an experience that you go through.
At least 40-year-old Paul knows what I'm looking at now, because yes, I saw like apes. And then I double check the Mnet guide. I'm like, am I watching the right thing? And then it ends up being in space, and I'm like, okay. And yeah. And then it's like Lawrence of Arabia. It's one of those films where I was like, I'm gonna totally watch this again when I'm older.
Yeah.
And now I totally get it. I mean, when I say I totally get it, I totally appreciate it now.
It's never a bad time to remind folks that Soylent Green took place in 2021.
Oh, guess what we're eating tonight, guys. But Stephen,
yeah, Rob.
I think maybe not cultural, but something to you that's personal that you wish you could relive. I think that probably hits
Well,
hard.
the broader question of a cultural moment that I would have wished I was present and cognizant to take in. I think I've got an answer for that, and that's quite simply like getting swept up in the Star Wars phenomenon back when it was so exciting and so new, and actually having the reveal of Vader being Luke's father not come as a spoiler, or not be spoiled already. Like my history with watching Star Wars was fucked because
You watched
I was
Return of the
watching
Jedi
these-
first.
Yeah.
exactly, we were renting the tapes, and Jedi was the most abundant and proliferated, and I think actually possibly made the conversion to VHS first for whatever reason, because it had just been released cinematically, and that's kind of when VHS kicked off, like the early 80s, like 83,
Yeah, so
84.
they do the current hits rather than go back.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think A New Hope was the last one to be made into a VHS. So I watched Star Wars in the wrong order. Watched Jedi, loved the Ewoks, the space battles. It all seemed so magical. Then
man.
watched Empire and kind of got swept up in just the majesty of the visuals. But I already knew Vader was Luke's father. There was nothing new there. And then the very, like, Star Wars, by comparison, A New Hope, seems so dusty and old. I mean, it's immediately dated by Empire and how, like, absolutely luscious those visuals are. Like, Star Wars seems very, like, simple camera movements. The space battle, if you've seen Jedi, looks crude by comparison. Like, all the stuff that you should be blown away with Star Wars on. Blown away by Star Wars on. That's all of that stuff is kind of robbed of it. So I wish I had experienced them in the correct order and in cinema and gotten to experience the vibe. I mean, like, even in my country, people were driving across the breadth of South Africa to go and experience it in whatever cinemas were presenting it in Dolby surround sound, because that wasn't common. And like I was speaking to a sound engineer on one of the productions I was working on, and he was like, yeah, man, we all loaded up in my dad's Volkswagen Mini and we drove up to Johannesburg to watch it in Dolby.
They jumped in the
'Cause it was
combi.
that important. And we just watched it back to back to back. Like, we watched several screenings in a row because this was so mind-blowing. And amazing that even in 1977, like, the word had traveled that this was a phenomenon and it was worth, like, doing such crazy shit, even in a far-flung piece of the globe like South Africa. So yeah, the fervor was everywhere. But I mean, getting the chance to watch it at the Chinese theater in Hollywood would have been, I suppose, the bee's knees.
That would
If
be
you got that
number one.
opportunity. Mm-hmm.
But I
And
think-
personally, I've
Yeah,
got one
personally.
too.
Oh, tell
Well,
me.
Rob, dude, it's you and me, baby. I've got
Oh.
a slide that since I had some lead time, I managed to find. So sorry for all you listening to the audio version, but this moment when you, me, and Alistair had received from Amazon a box of the new GI Joes. This is about 2003. I just graduated high school the year before. Rob, you were
Oh,
already
yeah.
a working man, I think.
Oh,
If I'm
absolutely.
not mistaken.
Writing little
but
articles.
but we had just ordered the new Sculpt era GI Joes, and we were so excited. We were like, "Yes, this is amazing!" And off to the left on the bed is a smaller sort of bubble padded envelope, and in that was the DVD of GI Joe the movie, which I hadn't seen since I was a young child. Also watching a VHS copy that got so scratched up, I guess the rentals company like retired it. Anyway, so it had been gone from my life for, I don't know, 10 years to this point, 15 years maybe. So we unboxed those Joes and marveled in their enormous shoulders and strange proportions. But no, look, the stars were in our eyes. We were absolutely enamored with them at the time and the possibilities that they brought, because they were new GI Joes. Oh my goodness, we'd gone for so long without any new plastic. And these were the front line, so to speak, of a new generation. And we watched the movie together that day for the first time. And that might seem insignificant, but it just grows in significance the further I get from that point. Like, we were about to embark in the golden era of our playing time. I mean, we were in our 20s already, and yet this
We were
was the
still
moment.
playing at
This
that
was
point. And it's,
absolutely late at night. We would get together and go on epic adventures with our action figures, and they'd reached a kind of a level of sophistication that young men in their 20s would require in order to keep us engaged. We had characters that developed and grew and became part of ourselves. So that was just such a great moment, man. And I think you might agree with me, Rob.
Oh,
for
I
once.
think I definitely would actually. This is
Awesome.
your mother. She's amazing. She always loves taking pictures of everything.
It's
That's
a little
so
bit
cool,
posed
though.
now, but this is an era before
envy that.
smartphones. So we were
Yeah.
clicking away on it might have even been a film camera. Yes, this was
Probably
developed.
was.
So yes, this is a film
Yeah, it's a
camera.
proper film. Yeah.
So we totally staged it for the camera. Like, clink
got
your
the
glasses
Coke.
together, Jits.
Grape
Awesome
soda.
times. I wish it was grape soda. It was in
Oh,
fact
gosh, it would've
Coca-Cola.
probably just
Big glasses of Coke.
Absolutely. We probably had tons of popcorn while we watched the movie too.
And Alistair was like, "That's not how Beachhead sounds in my head." You know, pathetic. Do not pack. You won't be staying long. Like, Elle did not play him with a sort of a, I suppose, Alabama accent. He should have. I think he is from Alabama. Yeah, dude,
Played
it's
him
good
how he
times.
saw him. Absolutely incredible time. I definitely agree that that is a personal GI Joe event that I would love to go back to. I mean, I think a lot of our playtime is definitely times I wish I could go back to. And talking of accents, I believe Brian Cummings his was inspired by Arnie, and that's kind of cool for Dr. Mindbender. Dr. Mindbender, we're gonna get Serpentor out of the ground.
Come on, brainwash me. Do it now.
It was news to me. I didn't see Arnie in that, but yeah, that's what he said.
Obviously that was the inspiration that went into that.
physique.
And I see you even managed to get him to talk about Tron.
Yeah, well
Sure.
done, Cooch.
Well, dude, when you look at somebody's bio and they're like, "Oh, these guys had their hands on Tron," all right. Yeah, of course, got to go to the grid, baby. Program.
And I think also Tron is an example of something where, I mean, it's also I think people in the comments have shared moments where they spoilers, like you want to be able to relive a time before you knew the spoilers of significant stories. And I think definitely there are a lot of stories that have obviously affected people over time. And I think he even mentions, Brian Cummings mentions how the original version of Tron was obviously groundbreaking visually, but over time it took years and years for them to introduce more story, and people saw the potential of what Tron was to keep introducing more story to it, keep fleshing out that world, because it was fascinating. The visuals told you a fantastic story, a place that you could be in. And I think G.I. Joe is definitely a place that we all have been in for many, 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 many years. So I think all of this comes back to stories. It's the stories that we tell. And where are all of us right now in our stories? Are we at the beginning? Are we at the middle? Are we at the end of our stories? Are we still telling stories? Are we still going to be here, guys? Years from now?
Time
Well,
will
my
tell.
story can wait no longer, boys. Shall we talk about the Mega HiSS?
It's a
Let's-
cliffhanger
Alright.
question.
Shall we?
Cool,
Shall we?
can
Shall
I-
we yeah,
I think.
please.
Well. Let's first. Paul, do you have a personal event, and then Cujo, it'll be your time. I want
A
to hear
personal
something from you.
event. Yeah. It sounds weird, but like a personal event for me would be, I would love to sort of meet, my buddy David. Like, I'd love to have that moment again when these are my new, Asian neighbors that have just moved in across the road, and we're becoming friends, and I'm learning about all of this stuff, like Dragon Ball or whatever. It's because I would say, as much as I love GI Joe and Thundercats and He-Man. Well, I didn't love He-Man that much as a kid, but I loved like Thundercats and I loved Transformers and whatever. Meeting David really kind of solidified what I would get into. Like he solidified the whole. That friendship solidified the fact that we're into GI Joes. Okay, and that made GI Joe more important to me. It took GI Joe from being these cool like toys that I'd bought and whatever that I was doing some cool pictures of, or when I say cool pictures, trying to draw cool pictures of when I was a kid, to being something that actually became a thing in my life. And then also like through David, I met anime. Like, yes, we had Robotech on TV in South Africa, and we had Force 5, and we had lots of other dubbed anime stuff that sort of came roundabout on its own sort of trip to South Africa. But meeting David would sort of identify it as, this is Japanese animation. This is actually what its potential is. And that was like a whole new world for me. Whole new world, you know? And that just blew my mind. I mean, that's when I first saw Gundam, Saint Seiya, Dragon Ball Z, all that stuff. It just completely changed my brain. And I'd love to relive that. Not to change anything, just because it was such a great experience. And because in true Paul style, and I'm going to be a sneaky bastard and I'm going to do this, meeting Steve and Rob. Because I met you guys at different points, you know? I would love to go through that meeting of Steve again, just so we could talk about even more GI Joe shit. Because it was such a, like, I have just like flickers of memories from that day, and also meeting Rob properly. Like that whole thing, that was cool. Because, yeah, guys, I mean, we've been doing this for like so long, and like, I love you guys, you know? And I would love that experience again, because I didn't know it then, but that was a really important moment in my life, is meeting you guys. And so that was a thing, you know?
Well, Stephen made it happen. I mean, he brought me to Johannesburg so we could watch an amazing GI Joe movie.
Yes.
And
the part, what was the second movie called? Retaliation. That's it.
Retaliation.
Which
And I
is
can't for the
very
life of me.
timeless,
Yeah.
because Hans Chow has related the fact that when he saw it with his best friends, he was heartbroken when they started shredding it afterwards.
Aw.
I think we were a bit kinder. So Hans, I wish you'd seen it with us, pal.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
We would have had a
On
much
Africa's
better
largest screen.
Yeah.
Because we were kind of glowing afterwards. We had some nitpicks
I
and
think so.
we recorded them at the time.
But it's
live.
the people that you see it sword with that kind of made the experience
Yeah, and
better.
it's the cinema effect as well. Watching it in cinema invests you more emotionally.
And we were elated to just be hanging out again. Oh, not
Exactly.
again. Hanging
Oh, yeah,
out for the first time.
But
Yeah.
Cujo, tell me,
I was just gonna say, just admit
Yeah.
you were riding high off the mole pods. That's all. Yeah,
I wish.
I don't. You know, I do think about, you know, when our paths crossed at the last JoeCon quite a bit.
yeah.
And I don't regret a moment of that time. I didn't feel like there was any time misspent. No, but I do reflect upon that. And if you're wondering, at the 41-minute mark, Paul said, "I love you" to all three of us. So
Aw.
we've reached the high point. But
Aww.
It's all downhill from here.
of course, there are like stuff, and bringing up Tron, like Tron Legacy, when the program leaves the computer, that's a genre-breaking moment. That's no good. Take me before that moment. But I've always thought Tron is interesting in the respect that it's introspection. It's characters that exist within a box. You know, when you're talking Star Wars, you exist in space. You know, anything is possible. But in Tron, you're in a cage. So I think it's a deep thinker's property. You know, the people that really enjoy it, they usually. I have people stop me on the street all the time. "Oh, you're a Tron fan?" I'm like, "Cheers, program." You know. So
Hell yeah.
yeah.
So would you go back and watch Tron again for the first time and have that experience?
I don't know. I didn't catch, honestly. If you were going to ask what movie have I seen the most, it's probably Tron Legacy in IMAX, because I had a movie pass at that time, and that thing was just mind-breaking to me. Just the visuals. I forget the director's name, but he just did Top Gun. So, you know. He's
Yeah,
got
he did
me-
an amazing job with that movie. I think it definitely brought so
Top
much more to
Gunnington.
the experience. Top Gun, yeah, Mr.
Sir
Top
Top
Gun.
Gunnington, whatever his name is. I don't know what his name is. I still
Mark
haven't seen that freaking
Chesterton.
movie.
I
I
haven't
haven't
seen
seen
it
it
either.
either.
I'll
was
get
close.
around to it.
Yeah.
I'll get there eventually. But okay, so yeah, Tron Legacy I think was, yeah, like Tron is fantastic, but I think it definitely, the story matured over time and they got it more right with the sequel.
Well, there's a world there that's completely accessible and immersive, but for whatever reason. But Steven,
Maybe it's too much.
did you have mega thoughts on your mind?
Steven, do you even
Yeah,
have more
shall we-
thoughts? before you start, like I think
Yeah.
Stephen
Are
has
you-
pushed
yeah.
this video that came out this past week. If you want to go and check it out, he's pushed this thing
Link in the
harder
description
than
below.
anything else we've ever made. Like I'm on Instagram. There's Stephen's producing little reels. There's stories. Stephen wants everyone to know about the HiSS, the Mega HiSS, and spoilers. Stephen, are you going to spoil it? Do you like
No,
it? Do
no.
you not
I was gonna say, Steve, are you hissed off about it, or are you Megatroned on?
Very good. Well, as a prelude, the reason I have it so early is because it was released in Australia early. Simple as that. I did not
Absolute
go
insanity.
to. I did not have to resort to an eBay scalper seller from Taiwan or wherever. It all landed up in brick and mortar on, I think, the 1st of August. So I just went down to the store and bought one. I cancelled my pre-orders with Amazon and with one other place. It was a
Wow.
fan channel called EB Games here. And
Well,
I don't
why
think those.
resort to scalpers when you can be the scalper, Stephen?
I think they only had 3 at the local JB Hi-Fi that I went to, so I wasn't going to be able to scalp very deeply, but-
700 Australian dollars you could have made for yourself.
Yeah, that's $100 more than a classified alley viper before street date. So
Look, and the costing for Australia was a lot more lenient. This product on Hasbro Pulse will set you back 90 US, but for whatever reason, it was only 104 Australian, which is about 73 US.
Oof.
So, for a change, things have skewed in favor of the land down under. If you are about to get your passport stamped and head off to Australia to buy your toys, just bear in mind that Hasbro Pulse has no presence here. Like, we are also subjected to, scrounging around for scraps. So when we do have a win, we'll take it, thanks. This was one of them. So I am absolutely going to rub it in everyone's faces, Rob. Sorry. But I figured that people who are sitting with the pre-orders ought to have an informed opinion if you like watching YouTube reviews. If you like to go in cold and just allow this thing to kind of assault you when it arrives, that's fine too. But I figured people like me who want to know what we're buying should have some sense. And I did a very honest unboxing and review. And yes, Rob, I do still have opinions that I haven't shared because that review was done
fantastic.
straight after the unboxing. And it didn't really give me much time to marinate my thoughts on this toy. I've subsequently had it in hand for over a week now, and I've been transforming it back and forth and playing with it and testing it out. The wheel clearance is very low, and it's a painted surface which make up Megatron's shins. So I have not been playing with it out of doors. You will definitely have paint scratch that way. But I will say this much. They found a good middle ground in terms of the build quality and the kind of the toyeticness of it. Because this isn't masterpiece level Transformer, nor should it be. Because it being interactive with the O-Ring G.I. Joes invites play. And masterpiece Transformers, I think we can all agree, they do not invite play. You want to transform them maybe a handful of times, avoid those paint scratches or
2
chrome
handfuls at a
chippings.
time.
Exactly. And take your time with it. Like the transformation starts becoming less and less fun because you're really having to do it quite slowly and carefully in a well-lit room. Last night, I was transforming him in the semi-darkness while watching TV, and fine. I did not feel terrified that I was going to turn on the lights and see like, oh no, I've chipped a little bit of plastic off or something. Like this thing it's hardy, it's toyetic. So that explains away a lot of the hollowness that you
That's what
see.
she said.
But it's not a KO or bootleg transformer in that the plastic is strong. The rivets are strong. All the parts that need to have stresses applied to them are very tolerant. Like if you got a hinge that works in one direction, the plastic is forgiving enough that if you happen to do it at a bit of an off angle, it's not going to stress the plastic. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that is.
So it's got a stamp of quality in that regard. And the hollowness in most respects is explained away by the way it folds in on itself. Megatron needs a hole in his chest because that's exactly where the turret hole, the turret, yeah, the underside of the turret. So like basically like the tub of the turret has to go into that hole, and the holes in his forearms are where his feet actually fold into, if you can believe that. So yeah, there's a marrying of the forearms and the toes that happens, which, yeah. So that's the good, guys. This is me being a Hasbro apologist. Also, all the smooth areas, all the undersides and areas that are hollow and would otherwise be smooth on, say, a lesser transformer, they've gone in and detailed it up the wazoo. Like, there's a maximum amount of technical detail on portions of this that would never be seen. Like, the underside of the shell, the backpack, is insanely textured. So kudos there. They
Yeah,
pulled it out.
I was thinking the other day, like a lot of toys, especially the GI Joe toys, like the detailing is good from above, and I was like, that's probably because it's kids. Your kids are looking at this thing from above, but when you kind of like go from the underside, then you start seeing those hollows. There's those kind of like the plastic shell and the emptiness of what a lot of the vehicles are, which is fine because that's what it is. But it's cool that they added all those extra details into the Megatron, because you are going to see those hollows a lot because of it being transformed. So that's
And
pretty
as
good.
for compatibility, here we're gonna start opening the can of worms, and I'm gonna kick it over to you guys to talk a little bit about Hasbro of the now and their supposed like retro, backwards looking lines. You can fit a modern era figure into the canopy perfectly. Obviously, the modern era figure will go into the turret perfectly. When we come around to the backside, you got foot pegs, right? And now I never made a big song and dance about foot pegs as a child, but I think I never really owned the vehicles that the foot pegs really, really worked on. Like a Shark 9000 that has foot pegs on the side pontoon is not a clever place to put figures. I mean, you could, but it's stupid.
But do you
That
want
thing
it?
is a high-speed attack boat. These guys have nothing to hold on to. Yeah, forget about it. But something like the HiSS or the Water Moccasin or the Ore Striker, another vehicle that's going to be done in Transformers GI Joe style, those foot pegs essentially double your occupancy. They are essential. The vehicle is designed for those foot pegs to make sense. So my shocking discovery that the foot pegs on the HiSS tank are sized not to accommodate a modern figure, not to accommodate an old school vintage figure, but only to accommodate Hasbro's current retro O-ring brand, that was a big slap in the
Interesting.
face. And that led me down the rabbit hole of getting a poll going on Facebook and YouTube. A poll that seems, well, I listed two options, and I'll tell you what they were. Is this gross ignorance on Hasbro's part? They just didn't realize, they just didn't test the sizing against old product? Or is it planned obsolescence? They wanted you to buy their new figures. Which do you think it is, gents?
I think I know I initially shared some thoughts with you, but for the air, I would say the more I've given it thought, the more I think it is a planned. I don't want to say obsolescence, but it was definitely done on purpose. I don't think it was an oversight thing. Initially, I thought it was an oversight. Initially, I felt like that was the last thing they cared about, because they were like, oh, nobody's gonna put the, you know what I mean, like I thought maybe the mentality there was just wrong. They weren't thinking of the end user. But yeah, but now if I think about it, like even the retro O-ring Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow that I've got, their stands obviously don't work for other GI Joes. Their backpacks don't fit with other GI Joes. So Hasbro's done that intentionally. They didn't do that by mistake. There's a plan there. Is the plan to preserve the original collector's quality, or should I say the original? Is it to keep the originals as collectible antiques or something, and to not mess up that market, or is it because, like you said, it's planned obsolescence? So I lean on the side of they did it on purpose. I just don't know why they've done it on purpose. What the actual goal is.
Well, to make sure that they can sell you all the new toys. But Rob, where do you
Well,
sway on
I
this?
voted on your little poll there. I said planned obsolescence because it's happened before. The modern era figures, they do not fit nicely into the older vehicles. They had to obviously redesign those older vehicles to be able to fit the modern era figures better. So I think it's a money making thing where you're pushing forward, you're going forward. They can't make money off the old toys anymore. They need to make money off new toys. So that's why it's cool to get new versions of them, retro figures. But of course, they need to make money, and they want you to buy the new figures to put onto their new vehicles. I think so, definitely. Cujo, are our corporate overlords, are they trying to rob us blind?
Well, obviously, there's a number of buzzwords that I can't see here, but no, I'm just playing. It's an interesting one because this is a question of business models, and I think they have corrected certain things. I think a more interesting question to me is like, has Hasbro done anything yet? No, they haven't. They have not created one single unique GI Joe character yet to further the story. So let's let that go. Have they improved their modeling? Yeah, they don't have those like 10 armor plates anymore and stuff like that. But as far as like, if there's anything to say about what they're creating, or they should understand that they have a consumer base that's resonant, and they should be considering old lines because that's what stimulates us. It's an interesting one. I'm not saying they won't correct it, but I can't see too much forward thinking when it comes to really any of the toy lines right now. But I think there's a couple other names that I'll drop while this conversation opens up. What did you arrive at, Steven? I mean, is it sour grapes or what?
I have to admit, I was tending towards planned obsolescence myself, and the YouTube vote swayed in favor of that option. 79% of voters, and there were 110 voters. 79%
cynical
thought
bastards.
well, yeah, versus gross ignorance. I mean, that is a rather strong accusation to have. Like, to think that an entire team of Hasbro employees completely didn't bother trying it. The Facebook poll got a little bit more nuanced because there was an added selection. It wasn't just gross ignorance or planned obsolescence, but also indifference. They made it to fit new figs without considering whether it fit the old figs, which I think is kind of a branch of ignorance. But it's like, it's a more deliberate. It's more deliberate that way. It's like, no, I didn't put that option up. That was an option put up by one of the voters, and it did get some support. So cumulatively, 70% of people said it was either gross ignorance or indifference.
Interesting.
And only 21% said planned obsolescence.
Wow.
Now I'm swinging more in
completely the other way
favor
around.
of. I'm swinging more in favor of indifference simply because I listened to the Hasbro Q&A session, the most recent one, done with other channels, not this one. God, if I ever get invited to one of those things, it will be the last. They'll be like, that guy's never coming back. Anyways, it was a lot of congratulation and backslapping, and everyone's just so in love with themselves. And the success of the Hasbro Classified line. And that prompted me to believe that, yeah, the O-Ring initiative is really the red-headed stepchild of the GI Joe world now. It was a painful realization when I came to it, but it absolutely is being left in the dust by the extreme popularity of Classified. It's so extreme that there are like turf wars breaking out between news outlets, like people grabbing other people's content and passing it off as their own. Like, it's getting ugly out there, and this is something we never had in the doldrums of GI Joe's previous iteration. Now that GI
we
Joe
just
is
used to be able to complain.
Hot stuff.
and we didn't necessarily fight as much, but now that it's absolutely the hottest toy, without a doubt. Like it's a dog eat dog world out there, man. And
Well,
O-ring, like what I could infer from the Q&A
dog-eat-dog
is that they have
world.
no O-ring plans for 2023. Forget about it. All this
Yeah, well,
stuff.
they don't need
these
to
two
plan. They
packs-
could just like spin the wheel and choose a
shelving.
random figure and then just release it. They don't even
What
need to
tipped me off
plan.
to this fact is
Yeah.
the recent ruling that plastic-free packaging does not apply to retro items or items that are specifically marketed towards a collector base as opposed to mass retail. And this ruling was too late for Lenny and Emily's 2023 lineup. So you won't be getting any Walmart retro carded 6-inch guys in 2023. And by the same token, I don't think they had any O-ring retros planned because they, of course, rely on the window packaging as a selling point.
And sorry, Steve, just to for the listeners to reiterate, you're speculating, or have you got this down as hard fact?
I think I'm making inferences, but I'm not the
Okay.
first person to make that
Remember to
inference.
take this with a lot of salt.
Well, look, What's on Joe Mind are far more moderate in their views than we tend to be, and I got the same vibe from Rob Irizarry's coverage of the Q&A. He was actually there, so yeah. Look,
Fascinating.
I'd be very curious if they suddenly pulled out some O-ring product for 2023.
But
By that I mean
like
carded and boxed, like we've been
carded,
getting
yeah.
the Cobra Officer and Officer and Trooper and Duke and Cobra Commander and.
Well,
What else
this
did they do?
this
Oh, Storm
collaboration
Shadow
with,
and
with
Snake Eyes.
Transformers, though. I mean, we're getting Bumblebee next. So, do you think that's it? They're kind of like, okay, we did our part.
Yeah, if it's not
If you
announced
point,
already,
like,
it's not coming down the pipeline. So I don't know. I guess just as an old school purist, I'm bitter naturally. So I'm gonna just transform my toy, and you guys can talk about it. How about that?
well,
Well, like I just want to like throw in some feedback there.
Okay, throw something quickly.
So meanwhile, like so now, based on your poll, somebody at Hasbro who handles their sort of communications and analytics has come back to Lenny and Emily, and basically said, "Well, we are doing much better than we did in 2021 because now people think that we're actually incompetent and not evil. This is progress." Oh God.
Maybe
no,
mute
shame,
yourself,
I mean,
Stephen, if you want to do this.
What,
Like-
you don't want to hear the click clack click clack?
No, I don't want to
Click,
hear
clack,
that.
click,
I
clack.
want to hear Paul's incredible opinions, please.
no, but like that's basically like what the direct like reaction to those analytics would be. Like, yep, congratulations, guys. They think we're idiots. They don't think we're evil anymore.
Well,
that's
they've
and that's probably all they
certainly
care
won.
about. I mean, I'm
for
joking
sure.
now. I'm being
Well, I mean-
like tongue in cheek, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you're definitely being that tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that like that's out there. I would hate for GI Joburg to be accused of like GI Joburg accuses Hasbro of being happy about being proud of.
Nah,
Yeah,
it's
dumb
just,
proud
it's just,
or
it's just,
something.
it's a perception that we have, and it's
Yeah.
come from just, it's things that we've seen that suggest this to us. Cujo, what do you think?
well, I mean, Stephen mentioning that GI Joe is a hot toy. Well, how did that happen, gentlemen?
Classified, pal.
I would say this: if you're in this pod, if you're listening, then you probably understand words like sustainability. So, but for every Hasbro toy you buy, support an indie. Buy one indie toy. It doesn't matter. We got so many in our collective, but I mean, we can always become the Operation Recall podcast. I mean, we
Oh
can
no,
talk
for
about-
sure.
We can talk about those characters.
That's correct, and they're shaping up. Yeah.
Well,
sorry.
no, you're good. My thought is that what are we short on in the toy or what are we short on in GI Joe right now? Good stories. We got good plastic. We got good characters, but we're about to see the GI Joe license change hand in about 5 months for comics or something like that.
Yep, IDW is losing it and it's going to someone else.
We'll see what they have in store. I do have one question, an opinion question about you guys. Do you think, and much love to Bobby Vala, do you think Valaverse has slipped into too tight of I mean, Sergeant Slaughter twice. I know that's not on him, but the fact to bring Sergeant Slaughter into your line, it's almost
If
meshing
you got it,
together.
use it. You got it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't think, like, I kind of feel like what you're saying is, are you kind of saying that maybe they're riding Sergeant Slaughter too much or too hard, or would you say that there needs to be something a little bit more interesting than that, just so that
Well,
I understand
it's
where you're coming from?
no. That's but pretty much not Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, he's got plenty of miles left on him, but it's strange to me that like there should be a more distinguishing footprint. Like, can any of you gentlemen tell me what the color is of the villains in Valaverse? Like, we got Cobra with red and blue. Who does Valaverse's enemies rep?
Yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah, bright.
Swarm.
Yeah,
Is it?
neon yellow, the swarm. Yeah,
All
Okay,
right,
well-
I didn't know that.
but they're not the only villains. That's the other thing to mention. Yeah.
Well, I know he has Netho Diaz as one of his artists on his comics. I love Nethos's work, but I've always thought it hangs on the visceral and heavy ink side. I feel like that new toy collectors need to put their comics maybe online or somehow get it on people's timelines to sell the
Yeah.
story more
Get
than
it
the
out there.
plastic.
But I think
Thanks,
that's
Steven.
that's what a lot of these things come to. I think at least for me, your exploration of the Fan Expo in Denver, and also a lot of what we said tonight is stories. You got to tell good stories to be able to encourage people to want to invest in the characters, to invest in the merchandise that you're creating, and how a lot of companies, I mean, especially I think with the nostalgia drive that we've seen so heavily over the last 2 decades, I think they're really investing in old stories, in stories that have already been told. They're not telling new stories. They're kind of like revolving around those old stories, and people got to tell new stories if they want to capture the minds and the wallets
The hearts
of the
and
people
yeah,
out
the
there,
hearts,
and the
wallets,
hearts
and
as
minds.
well.
Yeah.
Hearts, wallets,
Yeah.
minds. You want to get all of the big three. I think storytelling, good storytelling, where everyone is working together because they're passionate about the characters and about the properties that they're working on, will win out in the end. And I think, yeah,
And it doesn't even have to be like, oh, here's a 50-page immersive story that you can invest yourself in. You can
Yeah.
you can employ GI Joburg to create a 2-minute short on their people's timelines of your figures in the wild. You know what I mean? I'm using you guys as an example, but
yeah. No,
anybody
obviously, I
from
mean,
the
they're
collector
really cool.
community. Yeah.
But like just something small. I think also me and Steven explored Star Brigade and how just through the little tidbits of information, there's the little bit of a write-up on what Star Brigade is, and the little bits of information from the file cards suggests a huge universe of a story that's going on there. And even though they never fleshed that out, you can do that yourself in your own playtime. You can go to super mock hyper speeds with sci-fi. You can fly, you can fight with him near a black hole, and quasar velocities exceed the speed of light with sci-fi if you want to. So there's stories. I think, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is me like really reading into it, but I think definitely if you enjoy stories, listen to this episode of me talking right now, but also listen to Paul Cujo's Mile High file cards. There's definitely a lot of stories going on there, and there's stories on stories. I think, yeah.
Well, I don't know what's more interesting nowadays, the story or the creator telling the story. I mean, that's honestly when you're talking to different generations, they're always like, "Oh, everybody's getting canceled," and you're like, "You're right," but for the first time, we can tell who's good people we should support. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing because how do you tell a story when you yourself are front and center?
You're
I don't
part
know.
of the
I don't
story.
know.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. The stories behind the stories or the people are almost as fascinating or interesting, or they affect your perception of the stories as much as the stories themselves, or the properties, the things that we collect and enjoy are affected by the people creating them these days because of social media.
I actually, Rob, I'm going to add to that sentiment as well that the creating of stories and the trying to get people emotionally invested into the product and trying to take something in a direction is a very good idea, and I think a very good, not just a very good idea, but it's also a great sentiment. I feel like, and I'm sorry, it's going to sound like Berg, but but a company that's doing that really, really well is Mattel. Okay,
Yeah,
and
I would agree.
I mean, I mean, they just announced the Eternia playset. Okay, so like that line is making bank, dude. Like, I don't care what Spectre Creative says with all of his speculation and all that stuff, and I've sorry, Spectre, I'm not like trying to like diss you, dude. Like you've got some like you've
good
got real
guy.
insight in the site, but I mean, like, to the guy on the street, Mattel just looks like they are hitting home runs. Like, they're releasing Eternia. They've announced that the Snake Men are coming out. It's all kinds of stuff that's happening for that line. And everything on that line is still going on the momentum of the original cartoon and miniature comic book series of the original toy line that came out in the 80s.
Yeah,
And
it's based
yeah,
off that. But also,
exactly.
it's based off new stories that they're telling too.
Yes, but
I still
yeah.
need to watch the later adventures, but that
And
new
that's the
animated
point I wanted to
show.
go- Yeah.
Oh, is that where you're going with this? Yeah.
They are, because they've got 2 new animated shows. They got one that is like super kid friendly, as we've discussed before, and I love it. I think it's absolutely great. I dig it. It's got the whole design and everything is a major pivot, but I dig it. I think it's awesome. Then you got Revelations, which take it or leave it. But the one thing that Mattel has managed to do is Revelations is going to get itself to the place where fans are going to love it more. Okay, it's going to get itself there. But people have been complaining, And I think this is the point I want to make. Hasbro should just, make something for people to complain about then, Like,
Yeah.
make a show or something. I mean,
It's good or
Snake
it's
Eyes...
bad, people are going to
Yeah.
say something.
And that's the thing. And if people are saying something about it and talking about it, then that property does sort of sneak in. Then people do think of like, oh, wow, I remember when GI Joe was the best brand in the world ever. And then Hasbro's well, if you remember it when it was the best, well, have we got something for you? Check out our retro O-ring line. It's amazing. Then people buy that
G.I.
nostalgia.
Joe Snake Eyes Origins, was it positive to the brand or was it negative overall? I mean,
well-
does the old adage of there's no such thing as bad press really play in that case?
I
is
think
that
it kind
just
of
like
does. No,
A
I
rallying
think
point for angry fans to be like, this ain't my G.I. Joe.
no, it ain't. But then when Hasbro was like, but is this your G.I. Joe? And the fans were like, yeah, give me that.
Yeah,
I love
but-
having Snake Eyes with Timber now. It's so much better than the movie version.
I'm pretty sure Dirty Milk Water's Storm Shadow is still clogging up shelves.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he is. And Hasbro's like, yeah, you got to take one on the chin every now and then. You know what I mean? But
But the call has gone out in the Berg Force, at least, for me to put Baroness in.
Oh
how are you
my
going to fit it
goodness.
in the back there, dude? I mean, she's still in a box.
You bastard, you stole my punchline. Doesn't fit. For those of you just following the audio version, I'm trying to put a carded Baroness figure into his turret.
It's
That's
not
mint.
working.
That's mint on card S&M girl.
Exactly, and she will stay that way. I have no intention of opening this. But if you would
I'll open it
like
for
a
you.
review and comparison to the vintage Baroness, look no further than Timmer. He got one himself and has uncarded her, and it has gone up like literally 4 hours ago, as of
Oh,
recording
fantastic.
So
Link in
check it
description.
out.
I'll open her for you
Exactly.
for science. I will
Was it
rub
4
out
hours
the,
or 4
the
days? Something.
I'll
One or
rub
the
the
other.
paint out of the glasses. I will see if I can do my little wrist modification. It'll be gravy.
She is made with a glossy plastic. Timmer made the same conclusion, so that's nice.
Huh.
She does share some glossiness, particularly on the sort of the bodice. But yeah, those eyes are painted, man. That is just a weird choice, and it looks weird, and it's an eyesore.
Wiggity whack.
Also, Timmer made light of the fact that compared to her 84 version, she's got a lot of forehead. Like that hairpiece is moved a little too far back on the head for my liking.
Oopsie.
This is transgendered Baroness.
What's nice is she can hold a gun. She can hold a big gun in those rubbery.
Mine
hands.
holds my big gun fine, thank you very much. I guess I'm just one of the lucky few. Or am I? I don't know. My boldness is sometimes
Depends on how
rewarded.
big your gun is.
Hey, Destro size. Okay, that's enough from my face. shall we bring this one in? Rob, do you have any correspondence we can sink our teeth into before
Yes.
we shut
Oh my
Scoop.
goodness. There was just too much. I think I didn't even actually bother to look this week.
Fair enough.
I think next week we're definitely going to dive into that. I mean, I just really enjoyed this week listening to Cujo's episode, and at least for me, I mean, I think I definitely went along with this, or at least directed this entire episode. It feels like, because what came out to me and what I kind of stressed and kind of brought out of all of us, I think, in this entire episode is stories and storytelling, and I think that's definitely
thank you
something
for
that
that,
I got from Cujo's reporting on the Fan Expo in Denver. It's storytelling, and yeah, I hope this is a good companion piece to your video.
Oh, dude, you definitely put a spotlight on it, and of course, I'm always going to push my stuff. Yes, you should listen to it. But no, it's I appreciate that, and take a look at file cards as a blueprint to launching anything that you're creating, a knowledge base on. I went into it wanting to talk to the people that created something that I still have yet to unpack all of it. So it's been a real pleasure, and I think all the links are on the pod. So yeah, enjoy those stats. It should open up GI Joe to you in a different way, and then you'll notice these people turning up at your regional conventions, and you can say hello and say Cujo sent me. So
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a good chat. It was a good chat.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm glad everyone enjoyed themselves, and I hope the GI Joburg, what do we call them? The Bob Squad.
The Berg Force.
Hope they enjoyed themselves. Exploring the nostalgia, going into your memories and remembering times you wish you could have relived. Yeah, for sure. Check out Cujo's video, audio log. It's fantastic music as always. Do it. And check out Steven's review of Megatron. He really wants you to watch it.
And please follow up our comments with your time travel moments. And we'd love to hear them. And Rob would love to read them for the next episode.
Experienced it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Something that you wish you could experience again, or something that you missed out on that you wish you could have been a part of. Like
and the sales pitch one more time. If you'd like to join us live in the show, check out YouTube. No? Patreon.com. Well, yeah, you can check us after the fact on youtube.com for sure. But if you'd like to jump the queue and check us out early and even be live in the audience responding to us in real time, Patreon is your friend. Thank you to all the Berg Force who support us week to week, month to month, year to year. We love you. We see you. You guys are awesome.
Have you long time, guys. Thank you so much.
Love you long time. And also just a friendly PSA, avoid the Transformers Studio Soundwave, the Bumblebee version. This is just a public service announcement. If you want a fun Soundwave toy to play with, you'll get that. And if you want the shittiest transforming alt mode,
hell yeah,
you'll get that in this too. So so roll the dice. If you have one already, I'm sorry, enjoy the robot mode. And if you don't have one, choose money.
Hell yeah. And also don't forget, guys, at 41 minutes in, Paul said he loves us. And he means it to you guys too out there. He loves you.
I love
all.
the Berg Force.
Sure.
And I'd like to do a preemptory congratulations to Carson Metaxas and everyone from Operation Recall on the astounding success. I have refreshed the page just now and seen the total jump. So, I mean, by the time this podcast goes live, it'll all be said and done. But, this has been a very exciting thrill ride to watch. And it has taken, no doubt, a lot of hard graft and financial risk on Mr. Metaxas. So, G.I. Joe community, salute you, sir, on your initiative. And
at least we know that they will score highly in the poll with...
and also congratulations to the Springboks for trouncing the All Blacks 26-10.
Fuck, Springboks ate the All Blacks' lunch today. Take that, New Zealand.
Sports ball for the win.
Sports
guys,
ball.
we're still the world champions. Take that.
Hell yeah.
Well,
Forget about what it says on paper.
before we
Before
slam the
we
door
leave the
shut
building.
on this episode, it's obviously my job to remind you who you are, and that is one of the most successful international communities in the world. What am I basing that on? Of course, hundreds of thousands of dollars of crowdfunding within the community, a #1 rap artist on an international platform. I mean, I could go on. Be impressed with yourself. Don't look at this as an accident. Use this model to create sustainable networks around you. And if you don't understand the importance of that at this point, it'll slap you in the face pretty quickly. But yeah, you got an international conversation here that goes off every week. You got HCC. You got They Gone, who turns up for vets every week. You got Full Force, who's always giving context. You got Joe on Joe. You got, of course, the Chaplain's Motor Pod with Gary, who I'm going to team up with in the
One
near
of my
future.
favorites.
Ah, nice.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I actually met one of the people that has supported us along the way in Trinidad, Colorado. That would be my good man, Mike Vegas. It was a pleasure to meet him.
Amazing.
You might remember his photographs all over your timeline.
Oh,
But-
hell yeah.
No, this is a good group of people, and however you break on the brand, etc., support indies. They're gonna find your timeline. That's what it's about. You know, Hasbro will find us when they're ready. They will.
Absolutely. But
And
GI
if
Joburg is
I'm
life.
getting the intel correctly, Island of Misfit Toys from our man Ryan Sweeney will be talking to Carson. No, we'll be talking. Yes, talking to Carson tomorrow, which will probably be today as of the release of this podcast. And it'll probably be old news. So check it on the replay. But Ryan will be talking to Carson, and Toy Connections Ken will be in the mix, and it should be fun. So, yes,
Awesome.
indeed.
Yeah.
Shout outs to the indies, both new and old. It's wonderful. Guys are popping up and bringing their A game. It's
Make your
good times for
stories,
GI
make
Joe
your toys.
coverage. Let me tell you, or GI Joe adjacent coverage. Let's say that.
It's also exciting that there's lots of stuff to cover on GI Joe. So
Oh, yeah. We'll cover it
Just
all.
not
whether
already.
you like it or not, yeah.
Thanks, Hasbro, you bastards. All right. Yeah, independents do the best work. Retro Blasting says it all the time.
Hell yeah. Berg.
Mm-hmm.
Berg.
Berg, 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 berg. Berg, 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 berg. Berg, 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 berg.
All right, let's get out of here.